Andor doesn't open with a Jedi infiltration. It doesn't give you a crawl, a Star Destroyer, or the merest hint of John Williams. It gives you rain, a dreary crapsack corporate zone. It's a little disorienting for those expecting a Star War, a little boring perhaps, but by the end of the scene we'll know exactly what kind of world we're in, why it's so engaging, and what kind of man Cassian Andor is. Or what kind of man he is in BBY5 at any rate. BBY5 means 5 years before the Death Star goes boom in A New Hope, and if you've seen Rogue One, which let's be honest you have, then we already know where Cassian's story ends. But this isn't that story. This is the story of how a nobody from nowhere becomes the guy who will shoot his informant in the back just to protect the mission. And we start here in a corporate hellhole in the rain. Morlana One's a company planet. This isn't the Empire, not officially, it's what the Empire allows, privatized governance. Preox-Morlana's the corporation in charge here, and this is a place where the law serves profit, not people. The cops are corpo security guards, the fines are bribes, and everything, including the girls, is for sale. We've seen this before in Shadowrun, in Blade Runner, The Expanse and Robocop. But if you think this nightmarish trope remains firmly in sci-fi, you'll be disappointed to know that there are examples of corporation-controlled towns today, such as Próspera in Honduras, which bypassed Honduran sovereignty and created its own laws, while the UK's Special Economic Zones and US's Special Innovation Zones promise to start taking such ideas mainstream in the West. This isn't just sleaze, it's hierarchy masquerading as order. The corpos exist to enforce profit, not justice. Every interaction in this zone is about leverage, who can make you comply and what happens if you don't. Survival is compliance. The guards, the fines, where you park your ship, all of it's rigged to remind you of where you sit in the chain. This is what TV tropes would call a crapsack world, a setting where everything's broken, corrupt and hostile to human dignity. But what makes it hit harder is how banal it all is. This isn't dystopia through a stylized lens, it's just Tuesday for everyone living in it. That's the world we're walking into. Before we hear a word of dialogue, Andor is already telling us what kind of story this is. The rain, the empty bridge, the neon-drenched alleys, this could be the spy who came in from the cold in a galaxy far, far away. It's classic Cold War atmosphere, shadows, isolation, uncertainty. We're in a world where everyone is watching, no one is safe, and the system will eat you alive. The first words in the series come from a guard outside of what turns out to be a brothel. No weapons, no comms, no credit, no nonsense. If you're listening actively, this line may have tripped you up already. It did me. It's awkward. A clumsy corporate contraction that doesn't really make sense because as a list it's inconsistent. At first I, and according to Reddit many others, were confused by the credit line because weapons and comms relate to things you're not allowed to bring in. But they want you to have credit, right? But of course he means we don't extend credit. They'll let you settle up at the end of the night, but you can't leave without paying. I like to think it also serves as a character introduction, like the one scanned Cassian and popped a character info sheet up on a screen for the guard who's now relaying that info to us. No weapons. Cassian isn't a violent person and does whatever he can to avoid being violent where possible. No comms. He's not opening up to the people who love him about the things going on in his life. No credit. He doesn't have the means to improve his life in the way he's striving to. No nonsense. Cassian doesn't have fun. He doesn't fuck around. He's constantly on high alert. I think it's late season 2 before we see him doing anything in terms of relaxation. Maybe this also tells us how he deals even with those closest to him. The way he greets Brasso later in this episode is no nonsense. No hello, no how have you been, no chat about the weather, just straight to business. For the guard to be delivering the concepts together so clumsily is lazy operational efficiency, which is definitely a theme this show comes back to. These restrictions are about safety on the surface, but they're about control. Cassian enters a space where he's unarmed, unconnected and outnumbered. That's not just house rules, it's structural disempowerment. Even the language reinforces a theme. Trust is revoked here by default. Everything has a price, and you're already behind. And one more line. Upstairs lounge is closed tonight. If every single moment in good TV is purposeful and every word means something, what is the point of the brothel guard informing Cassian that the upstairs lounge is closed? It tells us there's more going on here than what we're shown. That's the ethos of the show in microcosm. By making the brothel spatially complex and then denying access to part of it, the writers are subtly teaching us Pay attention to what you're not being shown. This lesson will matter as the show becomes a web of rooms, doors, corridors and secrets. So no, it's not just a mood line, it's a boundary, a curtain. It's not for the likes of you. Unless you know where to look, you have to notice what the show isn't saying, what it's leaving just out of frame. The upstairs lounge is where I pull those curtains back, it's where I follow the corridors the story hints at but doesn't fully show. The details, the subtext, the quiet choices, this is the space where they all come together. So make yourself at home, and if you want to keep seeing the parts of Andor most people miss, you know where to find me. One thing that quietly stands out in this scene: the madam at the brothel chooses to deal with Cassian first despite 2 other men already waiting. Cassian offers no bribe, no prior connection is implied, so why him? It could be as simple as attraction, or that the 2 men are known regulars, loud, entitled and tiresome. She may prefer a quiet, polite stranger over troublemakers. But there's also a chance she picks up on something in Cassian, his focus, his stillness, his intent. He's not acting like a lonely, horny drifter, he's searching, and in a place where reading people fast is survival, she might sense that this guy isn't here to waste time or be trifled with. Her decision subtly reinforces one of the show's themes. Even under oppressive systems, people can sense who's playing the game, and who might just be capable of flipping the board over. Inside, Cassian blends in like a pro, or tries. It's hard to appear unnoticed as one of 3 customers in a club. He's not here for a good time, he's here searching. He says he's looking for a girl from Canary. Cassian's behaviour and dialogue here are coded as lies to the viewer. Even though Cassian isn't lying, it feels like he is, because the setting, the setup and the audience's genre memory all signal danger, sleaze and false fronts. And the madam picks up on that immediately and narrows her eyes. This isn't new for mysterious men to turn up looking for their sister, and they usually have bad intent. Maybe she doesn't get a bad vibe from him. That's why she spends the whole time intrigued, studying him. His story screams bad news, but she knows people and she doesn't see villainy in him. It's incongruous. The writers want the viewers to wonder, is this real? Is this man sincere? Which makes it all the more tragic when we later realise it is. He's careful, but not fake, doesn't lie unless he has to, doesn't escalate, and in Andor that's what spycraft looks like. Let's talk about these corporate guards. They're off duty, drunk, but they still think they're in charge. When Cassian leaves, they follow, and the shakedown begins. It's a scam. They're using jurisdiction as a bludgeon, trying to extort money by pretending this is protocol. This is what authoritarian looks like at street level. Not grand speeches, just petty men with too much permission and too little oversight. The Empire doesn't need to be here. These guys are its local proxy. And Cassian, he plays along, offers them 300 credits. We don't know if he even has that kind of money on him, and it ends up not mattering. One of the corpos starts searching his pockets, and here's a thing: after all the Scrawno insults they levelled at Cassian in the club, the guy who goes to frisk him is actually shorter and skinnier than he is. Given that I'm assuming nothing in this show is accidental, I wonder if that's a little nod to how some men feel embiggened by being lent a small and temporary amount of power by a corporate system that will quite happily chew up your corpse once it's finished extracting shareholder value from you. In an attempt to take one guy out and start a physical confrontation that might change the dynamic, Cassian throws his head backwards into Scrawno's face. Nose meets skull, cartilage meets brain. Scrawno doesn't get back up. Now the power dynamic shifts. The other guard starts with an accusatory tone, but we see him realise, he just killed a cop, I'm a witness, he has my blaster. He panics, starts spinning a story. It was an accident, we'll go in together, we'll tell them what happened. Cassian realises the obvious right away. The guard's going to change his story the second he's among friends. This guy came at us, we were just minding our own business and he killed Verlo. So Cassian shoots him in the face. It's point blank, it's cold, efficient and it's final. But he didn't have any other choice here. His momentary panic attack afterwards seems to suggest he hasn't killed often, doesn't do it for fun, and doesn't really know what to do now. He runs. Once he entered the brothel, nothing that happened was his choice. He was not the aggressor in the argument with the guards, and when he left he just wanted to go. He cannot and should not allow these low-level bullies to take his ship and his freedom, and he can't leave the last guy alive. You'll hear Cassian coded as morally grey by a lot of reviewers, but is he? He is coded that way. The mood is noir, the visual language is shadowy and ambiguous, the character doesn't emote much, the dialogue is clipped and defensive, the consequences are fatal. It's obvious that these types of tense conversations and dangerous interactions are not new to him. He's a cagey survivor threatened by a rigged system and placed in a no-win scenario. But Cassian is polite, he's not cruel, he doesn't escalate or seek trouble, leaves quietly when asked. All he wants is distance and privacy. I think what we learn here is that although Cassian has been shaped by the morally grey underworld, understands it and functions primarily within it, he himself does not appear to have been twisted by it. Here's the real takeaway. This isn't a heroic introduction. It's not about good versus evil. It's about a man who knows how to survive, a man who knows what systems do to people like him, a man who's already versed in a world of shadows, lies and secrets. In Andor, survival is rebellion, not in the grand cinematic way, but in the small choices. The lies, the silence, the unwillingness to submit. Cassian's world doesn't punish evil, it punishes weakness, and that's why he can't afford to blink. The writers want us to feel that, not with exposition but with tension. Cassian doesn't narrate his trauma, he just walks away from a pile of corpses and keeps moving. This isn't a rebellion yet, it's just a guy who seems to understand the underworld, trying to find his sister. And if it feels more like a spy film than a space opera, that's no accident. This is Tony Gilroy dragging Star Wars into Cold War territory. This isn't about force powers or chosen ones, it's about compromise, surveillance, and systems built to crush people like you and me. And it's not about hope. It's about the price of rebellion, the price of resisting corrupt systems. And Cassian Andor's already paying it.